somewhere in Mongolia, in the mountains or the steppe, or beneath a river that was diverted over it 800 years ago, is the grave of the most successful military conqueror in human history. No one has found it. The man buried there ruled an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. At its peak, the Mongol Empire would cover 12 million square miles and contain a quarter of the world's population. No empire before it had been larger. None since has matched it in terms of what a single dynasty conquered in a single generation. His name was Temujin. The world knew him as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. He died in August of 1227, in the middle of a military campaign. His body was taken north through thousands of miles of controlled territory and buried in a location so carefully hidden that it has never been rediscovered. The man who conquered half the world left no trace of where he rests. He was approximately 65 years old. By every measure of a life lived in the 13th century, he had already exceeded what could be expected. He had risen from the steppes of Mongolia, a boy whose father was poisoned when he was 9, who was abandoned by his tribe, who rebuilt himself from nothing into the leader of a united Mongol nation. He had conquered the Jin dynasty of northern China. He had shattered the Khwarezm Empire, the most powerful Islamic state of the era, when its Shah insulted his trade envoys. He had sent his generals west into Russia and Persia and the edges of Europe. And in the summer of 1227, at 65 years old, he was personally leading an army against the Western Xia kingdom. The Western Xia had done something Genghis Khan did not forgive. When he had marched against Khwarezm and called on his vassals for troops, the Western Xia had refused. They had called his demands arrogant. They had told him to find braver generals if he needed help. He had noted this. He had returned. He died in August. Beyond that, the records disagree. The Persian historian Rashid al-Din, writing from Mongol sources a century later, says he fell from his horse during a hunt before the final campaign began. That the fall injured him internally, and the wound slowly killed him over the following months. A Chinese account suggests he was struck by a Western Xia arrow during the siege. A Georgian chronicle says the arrow was poisoned. A separate Persian source describes symptoms consistent with typhoid fever, high fever, delirium, a sudden decline in a man who had been active until shortly before. Modern medical historians who have analyzed the recorded symptoms lean toward an acute infectious disease, typhoid, typhus, or a similar illness, potentially accelerated by the physical demands of a campaign at altitude in summer heat. A fall from a horse may also have occurred. The two explanations are not mutually exclusive. What is certain? The greatest conqueror of the medieval world died during a military campaign, and no one alive then agreed on exactly why. Before he died, he gave 3 instructions. First, complete the destruction of the Western Xia. The kingdom that had betrayed him was to be eliminated, its ruling family killed, its population punished. His generals were to tell the Western Xia that he had accepted their surrender while he was still alive. He wanted the victory, even posthumously. Second, keep his death secret. No announcement was to be made until the campaign was concluded, and his succession could be managed without triggering rebellion or disunity across an empire that spanned a continent. Third, bury him secretly, with no monument, no marker, and no record of the location. His generals obeyed all three instructions with a precision that has defined his legacy for 8 centuries. When the funeral cortege left the campaign site and turned north toward Mongolia, it was escorted by a large force of Mongol warriors. Anyone who saw them on the road was killed. Travelers, farmers, merchants, shepherds, whoever witnessed the procession, did not survive to describe it. The sources estimate that thousands of people died to protect the secret of his body's movement north. When the procession reached its destination, the burial was performed by the soldiers who had carried him there. Those soldiers were then killed, or, in some accounts, sworn to secrecy so complete that they took the location to their own graves. Some sources report that a river was diverted over the gravesite. Others say that 1,000 horses were ridden in circles over the ground for weeks afterward, until no trace of disturbed earth remained. The Mongol clan that was responsible for guarding his resting place, the Dark, had kept the secret for centuries, passing it within the clan and forbidding anyone else from entering the Forbidden Zone. For 800 years, people have looked for him. Medieval travelers asked about the tomb and found silence. Chinese dynasties that came after the Mongol Yuan tried to locate imperial graves and found nothing. Modern archaeological surveys, including satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and systematic field surveys, have covered the most likely region extensively. Nothing has been confirmed. The area most historians consider the most probable burial site, the Khenti Mountains of northeastern Mongolia, near a sacred peak called Burkhan Khaldun, is protected by the Mongolian government and by the local tradition that still considers it forbidden ground. Some communities in the region have actively resisted excavation, not because they know where the tomb is, but because the principle of its concealment has been honored for so long that disturbing it feels like a fundamental wrong. There have been false alarms. In the 1990s, a joint Japanese-Mongolian archaeological project that was exploring the region was shut down by popular protest. In 2004, a team discovered what appeared to be a palace complex that might be associated with his family, but not the tomb itself. The question of why his tomb has never been found is partly logistical. Mongolia is enormous, the Khenti Mountains are vast, and 8 centuries of weather and vegetation have had time to erase almost anything. But it is also partly because the concealment has been willed. Genghis Khan himself chose this. He had watched great empires fall and be looted, their monuments stripped, their grave sites desecrated by enemies who came later. He chose instead to disappear, to leave no fixed point that could be defaced, no monument that could be torn down, no grave that could be opened and used to humiliate his memory. In a life defined by conquest, his final act was a refusal to be conquered. Not by death, not by time, not by the verdict of whoever came afterward. His empire fractured within a century. The kingdoms he built were absorbed, replaced, reformed into other things. But the grave he chose, the absence of a grave, has outlasted every dynasty, every border, every power that rose in the lands he once ruled. No one has ever stood over it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to the Dragon Throne. Every week we cover one of Asia's most hidden histories. The conquerors, the queens, the kings who were erased, the mysteries that 800 years haven't solved. A like on this video helps more than you might think. It tells the algorithm this kind of story has an audience. And it does. We'll see you at the next one.